Welcome to Inquiry Theory. I'm Micah.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're doing another Navigate the Noise episode today. Yeah, that noise.
Yeah.
So we found a pretty interesting article. Ethan found it. Thank you, Ethan.
You're welcome. No, it was just sent to my email.
Yeah.
Didn't really find it.
I just checked my email.
They gave it to me.
No big deal.
Yeah,
you give me credit. You could have just not said that and been like, yeah, I did some fantastic research.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. No, I did everything. I looked it up. I spent hours trying to find it. I was sifting through like hundreds of articles, and I was like, yes, this is it. It's exactly what happened.
All right, cool. Well, no matter how we have it, we have this article in front of us, and it is kind of a foreshadow for the next topic episode we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty neat. I'm excited because it fit in perfectly. So, go ahead and introduce our article today.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting article. Excuse me. The title of it is Alabama profits off prisoners who work at McDonald's but deems them too dangerous for parole. So interesting.
Wow.
Interesting title there. So
yeah, it's a lot there.
Yeah.
Good old Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Showing everyone else how to do it.
Yeah. So they're allowed to work, but they're not allowed to get parole.
Yeah.
Is what the title is claiming.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah. So we've gone over the article a little bit, but just some key points. I mean, they've generated like $250 million off of prison labor.
Mm-hmm. The state has, right?
The state, yeah. The state.
So the state of Alabama has generated $250 million.
Yeah. Now, where's that money going? Who knows?
Where does it come from?
Well, it comes from prisoners.
Oh, where'd it go?
That's a good question.
Right. Something about Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah, he's in there somewhere. I'm sure it's Alabama. So basically, they're contracting out prisoners to private companies, and they're garnishing their wages. So $250 million has been made since 2000. I mean, that's almost $10 million a year. That's crazy.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yep.
So another thing is like only 8% of prisoners were granted parole, which is the lowest rate in the nation. So you got to wonder, they're making all this money. Why would
when I read that, that's what caught my attention most with this, is that they're being allowed to work and be profited off of, but they're still not eligible for parole.
Yeah.
Or granted parole, excuse me, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Quick note, prison labor is allowed under the 13th Amendment. So it says it permits involuntary servitude for those convicted of crimes. Involuntary servitude, I imagine if they're working, they elected to do so.
Right. See, that's a big question
up.
too. Right. So
involuntary, I don't know. Unless they're being offered, like, hey, a punishment for not signing up. Like, I don't know. And we'd have to see, because
the 13th Amendment is pretty tricky. I feel like it'd been shot down by now.
Yeah.
If they were actually violating an amendment. But
which, I mean, well, maybe they are violating. Like, so the amendment's fine, but maybe they are violating it. But I feel like involuntary servitude is I mean, they're getting compensated. First off, they're being paid. They are being paid. Now, yes, the state's taking a lot of that pay,
but it's not.
But they're getting paid. And I'm sure that the state's not over here like, you guys have to go do this work. Like, maybe it's a class, maybe some sort of elective thing they sign up to do, or maybe, and so, but here's the thing is, maybe it could be involuntary servitude if they're being forced, where it's like, hey, if you don't go work, we're going to, I don't know, not like, because right there, their parole rate's so low. Maybe they're saying if you don't work, we're not going to grant parole.
Right.
So that would
be the question.
That would be involuntary.
Are they? Is it actually voluntary or is it involuntary? And if it's voluntary, what are they doing to the people who don't volunteer? Those are the big questions in my eyes.
Something's making a noise, and I hear it. I don't know if it's this or something over there, so I'm just going to turn that off.
Cool. I'll just freeze my ass off. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. No losses here. Some Arthur Potomi was denied parole in 2022 after losing his job at KFC, where he complained about low wages. I mean, you're a prisoner?
You think his name comes from the Potomac River?
No. No, I don't know. Arthur? Why would Arthur come from the Potomac River?
Well,
the Arthur's crossing of the Potomac River.
No, his last name.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you get Arthur from Potomac. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that bullet point there. I mean, uh, you're complaining about low wages, but you're a prisoner.
There could have been countless other reasons you were denied parole, dude.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's dig into it. We're just gonna go. This isn't really
I mean, yeah, we have a few questions here that. So like,
yeah.
We want to know.
I mean, kind of some of the things we wanted to answer was like, how is Alabama profiting? And then that was in there. It's it's pretty straightforward. They're just leasing these people or renting.
They're renting their slaves out.
Yeah.
Sorry, too soon.
Don't be so biased.
Can't cancel me for that.
What percent of work is versus get parole? So kind of like, what are these rates going on? Hopefully, we can find that answer. I've got more questions, but we should dig into the article first because since we did kind of read the article, skimmed it beforehand, so we're not so much kind of just reading off of it to you, the listener. Lets us kind of direct it more instead of just sitting here and listening to two dudes talk or read. Nobody needs to hear our 5th grade reading levels. So basically in the article, they start off with some personal stories, some anecdotal evidence of prisoners being injured by incompetence. I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, so they're saying that there's a prisoner driving the van. They have the work prisoners, which is
a prisoner's. Oh, I didn't know that part.
Prisoners
prisoner's driving the van. Oh God.
And he was arrested. He's an alcoholic. All this stuff like that. And so it's like, first off, how the heck are these people getting out the booze and everything like that? Which later on in the article, it's pretty clear how they're getting it. But
did they know if this prisoner had a driver's license?
I never said if he had a driver's license or not. I can't imagine he did then. But yeah, basically he was driving these prisoners back and crashed, and 2 died and a lot were injured. And it brings up the question of where was the oversight, like who was in charge of them, and it turns out that they didn't have anyone in charge. He was just driving them, like that was his job.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So like that right there to me is, that's a big red flag. You can't do that.
Well, it might be from a minimum security.
Doesn't matter. You can't just let a prisoner drive prisoners around.
So these minimum security prisons don't have fences. They don't have supervision half the time. Like these, like minimum security means like minimum security. Like they could walk off if they wanted to.
So later in this article, they talk about how some of these people are talking about were violent. So I can't imagine they'd be in minimum. However, it does not clarify on if these prisoners I'm talking about.
It could be maybe 20 years in.
Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't clarify on if they were.
That's not really the question anyway. That's interesting though.
Yeah. So it looks like he was intoxicated. Well, they claim he was intoxicated. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Mommy let me to go to McDonald's all by myself.
Yeah. Mommy Alabama just out here like, yeah, go work, go make us some money.
Bring me back a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So basically Alabama's profiting 40% of wages. And then they also have fees tied to what the inmate's making. So like $5 a day for rides to the jobs, and then $15 a month for laundry.
Well, I mean, that's understandable.
They're making, so these inmates are making minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Anyway, they're bringing home maybe $4. They're making $4 an hour roughly. Once again, my concern with this.
Hey, from my experience, it's better than sitting on your ass doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were in prison, so I mean,
what?
What? I'm pretty sure we've said that in previous episodes.
I know. I'm just messing with you.
Okay.
Since when?
But like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think the issue here is necessarily the amount they're making. Like, I'm sorry, you're a prisoner. You're at least making something. Like, I get the whole like.
Well, I guarantee you, like, there are prisoners in there who are not offered the opportunity to make $4 an hour would take the $4 an hour.
Yeah, I mean, so the concern isn't the money they're making.
Right.
The concern is the parole.
Right. That's what caught my attention, was like only 8% of the prisoners who were working were eligible for parole.
So this is an interesting thing. So they're claiming in this article that turning down work can jeopardize. Highlighting here. Turning down work can jeopardize chances of early release in a state that last year granted parole to only 8% of eligible prisoners, an all-time low.
So does that say 8% of all eligible prisoners, or 8% of the prisoners who were working?
8% of all eligible prisoners.
Oh, well, that changes this whole thing. I thought it was 8% of the people who are working.
Yeah.
Because 7% of those could be people who are working. So I don't care about this article as much anymore.
I mean, it's still interesting. It's still
for
interesting
sure.
because I still think there's. I mean, we're still digging into it. I still think there's
like,
some.
The question now is, what's the percentage of people who are in prison that are working?
Yeah.
That's the question now.
Because this article covers that.
Yeah, that's what we need to know in order to know if there's any shady stuff going on.
Well, we can also see there is some shady stuff going on because why was some dude allowed to just drive? Prisoner allowed to just drive?
No, if they're minimum security.
I don't agree with that. I think that should.
Oh, I'm not saying I agree with it, but
it
might not be shady. It might not be against the rules.
True. Okay, sorry. When I say shady, I mean like stuff that probably needs reform. That's what I'm getting.
Oh, when I say shady, it's people doing shady shit.
Like illegal. Like
illegal shit.
They can't be doing that. Yeah. Okay.
They shouldn't do it. And they
so
know
now
it,
that we've clarified our definitions of shady, not so slim.
Wait, let me put away my umbrella.
Yeah, like so to me, it's shady that they're like. I don't think you should be allowing prisoners to drive other prisoners around. I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. It doesn't matter the security, doesn't matter whatever. I don't agree with that at all. But in this article, it says. Many prisoners work 40 hours a week outside their facilities and then get weekend passes, allowing them to go home without any supervision or electronic monitoring. So when prisoners are told they're too dangerous to be permanently released, it looks like another way to create a cheap labor force that is easily exploited and abused. I mean, yeah.
That's weird.
I agree. I mean, why would you let a prisoner go home unmonitored or supervised, but then they can't get parole?
What's a vampire breast lift?
Some Google ad. What? Yeah,
this is
crazy.
Funny.
What? That's a weird.
Click on it.
No, I'm not clicking on that. I don't want a virus.
Damn it.
Take a look.
Okay, well, what does it look like?
No, we don't need to look at it. So,
Arthur. They have an exclamation point.
Yeah, I don't need to.
Okay. You sure?
Another Arthur Potomi. They're once again saying, he was fired because he complained about how low his wages were. He upset that even teenagers working the register were out earning him despite the fact he'd worked there for over a year. Okay, once again, dude, you're a prisoner. I mean, like we said earlier, if they're forcing these prisoners to work, then yeah, there's a bit of... that's where I take problem is if they're being forced to, otherwise there's punishments levied against them, then yeah, there's an issue there. If the concern is just the money they're making, I don't really agree with that. I think they're lucky to be making any money at all, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wonder if they have to pay taxes.
That's the cherry on top.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, you owe us 3% in taxes at the end of the year.
3%? I'll sign up for that.
3% of their 4%?
Oh, yeah, they're 3% of the $4. Okay, so they filed a federal lawsuit last year against state officials, local governments, and businesses, akin to modern-day form of slavery that keeps the best workers from being released. Once again, I don't think it is if there is not evidence to show that there is a detriment to not doing the work programs. Like, the work program should be a reward. So there is evidence. So what I'm seeing is there is evidence with how low the parole rates are. I don't think there's direct evidence that is linked to explicitly like these people are working, therefore they're not getting parole. I don't think this article shows that information.
It shows a precedence.
But it shows that they have a low rate of parole, which you then need to bring into question, okay, if they're making so much money and the parole rate is so low, then yeah, maybe there's something connection here.
Right.
Just because this article is making that claim, I don't think it necessarily means it is. I do agree, however, it is more likely, though, that that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like then it's just a bunch of companies are just
why are you getting advertisements for breast lifts and workouts for men over 60? Are you over 60? You look good, dude. You look good.
Dude, I don't even know. That's great. Teemo, I'm getting Teemo to retired. Retired ad from Teemo.
They're trying to tell you something.
I wish I could retire.
Just give up, man. Just give up. Retire.
So, yeah. So then they're saying that the prisons are understaffed. Blah blah blah. In Alabama, the department determines which prisoners are employed off-site largely based on how well they behave behind bars instead of what put them there. Those working among civilian population include men and women with records for violent crime like murder and assault. Many are serving 15 years or longer. They shouldn't be doing those work programs.
No, I don't think anybody
who's
convicted of murder should be at McDonald's cooking me a burger.
Yeah.
That
imagine
rhymed.
If you go up.
That
nice.
rhymed.
Imagine if you go up and you
put that in your rap.
Hey, my burgers.
Cancel me for that. That wasn't.
Hey guys, I ordered this and just start stabbing you.
Hey, I asked for no ketchup. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Ketchup is fine.
Like, could you imagine that? Like, I'm not saying that has ever happened, but like, just come on. Like, realistically, you want someone with a violent record out there? That's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of shady stuff that they're doing. Your definition? No, my definition of shady, not your definition.
I'll show you ketchup.
Yeah, it's like. I just. Oh man.
Anyways,
each inmate is evaluated on her own record. It shouldn't be the record. It should be the crime you've done, in my opinion. Yeah. Home Depot investigated. McDonald's investigated. Best Western. All these places are like, well, we don't employ prisoners.
Of course they did.
It's like.
We don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't.
Yeah.
That's what your lawyer told you to say.
Yeah. Yeah, they're basically just saying that, yeah, they've done it.
I would be interested to know if there were any lawsuits filed and if any of the lawsuits won.
Yeah.
That's a whole episode though.
Yeah. So prisoners don't really want these work releases to be stopped. Looks like they're just complaining about parole and stuff like that because it offers reprieve from like, being in a prison. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Like,
absolutely.
I'm sure flipping burgers at McDonald's is better than being in prison. I mean,
I would look forward to it every day.
Yeah. But advocates say incarcerated workers should be paid fair wages, given the choice to work without threat of punishment, and granted the same workplace rights and protections guaranteed to other Americans. Okay. I agree with two of those. I agree the choice to work without threat of punishment, and then the workplace rights and protections.
Yeah, as far as being paid the same?
No, I don't think that really matters. I think that's a bit ridiculous. Okay, so now that
because
brain,
one, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay an electric bill, you're not trying to save up for college. Well, you might be, but
in prison.
You might be, but if that's your goal while you're in prison, should have been your goal before. Anyways. Yeah. As far as being paid a fair wage, you probably are getting paid a fair wage if you're getting paid anything to do anything. Yeah. Because you're in jail. I'm sorry. Like you were convicted for a crime, and you're in jail. So
I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I wouldn't.
No, you're good. You're good. I agree.
Trading tangents.
Yeah. I don't agree. Like the workers. The fair wages thing is what is a fair wage? I think if you've been incarcerated. I don't think there's really a fair wage.
You're not paying for a car.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So
you're not paying taxes.
Now
They might be. But
the only thing
they're probably not. The state of Alabama is probably paying their taxes.
Yeah. Only thing I would question is, does them making $7.25 an hour? Yeah, that's federal minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
If they're making that. There's probably incentive then for these companies to hire more of these inmates because then they can pay them less.
That could be.
So I'm not saying it is. There's no info on it, and we're not going to go off on a tangent and find that. But I think that's something to keep in mind.
The companies, Home Depot is actually a big one. I was going to say how many 16-year-olds are looking to get a job at McDonald's.
Yeah, all I'm saying is like they can charge them half what this because I don't know the McDonald's I see the starting rate's like $15 an hour.
Yeah, pretty good.
So what I'm saying is like they could hire 2 inmates for the price of 1.
I see what you're saying.
1.
Okay. Yeah.
So now maybe there's sorts of restrictions and all stuff like that. The article doesn't talk about that, but I think you got to be careful with these work release programs because then you got to watch out for them hiring exclusively just inmates because then they don't have to worry about paying. They save on money. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if that happens, but I think I
wonder if that happens with illegal immigrants.
We do not need to open that can of worms
today. Shit. Come on, man.
That is not a can of worms.
I bet you they take $7.25 over.
Yeah. $4
over
$4.
unemployment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They revisited the crash, blaming it on the prison for not vetting, blah blah blah. I mean, that's tragic, but
Do you vet every single other driver when you go out to go to Walmart or whatever?
So, another thing I want to get to, and I don't think we're quite there yet. Oh, okay. I don't really want to dig into this part of the article just yet, because this is going to be a whole, it's going to be a lot to dig into that section. Basically, they're just trying to tie in.
Well, they're digging wherever they can.
They're basically
they're
basically
poking.
comparing modern day work release programs to slavery.
Yeah. They're poking the bear. Different.
I think there's a conversation to be had there. I don't think this is the time to have that conversation.
The program could be very well tied to that. It could be an old program.
Yeah, but the last thing I wanted to touch on the article was they and I'm not finding explicit the specific point, but basically they're saying like there's dangers of the prisoners being out there. There was some concern about prisoners being out, being struck. Yeah,
I'll get it for you.
I know there's a hair.
It's a James hair.
James.
Oh, it's two James hairs.
James, hair everywhere. Basically, it's they're talking about how it's dangerous for these inmates to be out there working, and I think it's a rather weak point because someone's saying that
no homo.
What?
Sorry.
Distracting from my point, and plus nobody who's not watching didn't see what you did. I had a hair on me, and Ethan.
It looked like could have been like
Ethan. You don't have to keep mimicking the action.
Well, I went like this.
Yeah. Okay. we were trying to wrap up here.
You know what happens every time we try to wrap up?
Yeah, I know. We're focus.
Focus.
It's
going to happen every other. Okay.
Basically,
in conclusion.
No, not quite in conclusion.
Oh, okay.
What the last point I would say is in the article they're trying to make a point saying that it's dangerous for these inmates to be out there and that they're not responsible. Like the prisons aren't taking responsibility for deaths of inmates that are working. So, my issue with that is I don't really see the point they're trying to make, because are they trying to say this person wouldn't have died because they should have been locked up, not out there working, or because there's one that says this one of the inmates was struck by a speeding motorist in a hit and run accident. Okay, wouldn't a normal citizen have is that a risk they face too? Like, I don't get what point they're trying to make with saying
right.
These inmates could be dying out there, and it's like, well, so could just normal citizens. That's not really a risk,
right?
And it's not really the prison's fault unless the prison is negligent of the accident that we spoke at the beginning. Yeah, that's the prison's fault.
We could just go green and get rid of all the cars.
Yeah, true. But that's the prison's fault. That's their lack of oversight, their lack of checking up, and that's their issue. But just a dude dying on the along the interstate because some guy hit him, like, that could have been anybody. So I don't think
he also could have jumped in front of the car.
Yeah, I don't think he did, but
maybe. You've
we
never
don't
been. You've never been in the mind of a prisoner.
They don't say. True.
Yeah.
They don't say. But all I'm getting at is like that's a weak. I think that's a weak point this article's trying to make.
It is a super weak
I
point.
Think
that should be deleted.
Yes.
The editor should have got rid of that.
Yeah, it's not a good point. So
no.
We didn't even talk about where this article was from. TheStarTribune.com. That's where we were looking. So
there's a lot of good points and a lot of good conversation pieces in here. There's not a whole lot of legitimate concerns, in my opinion.
In my opinion, I agree as well. But what do you think as the listener? What do you think about this? Mm-hmm. Do you think that work releases are a good idea? Do you think Alabama is probably doing some shady stuff? Do you think that maybe work releases aren't a good idea?
Do you think anywhere else would do any different? Are they doing any different? I don't know. This is just emailed to me, so put it in the comments.
Yeah. So, and we'll end it there. If you like this episode, share, subscribe.
Do all the things.
Do the things.
We still haven't come up with a conclusion.
We're getting there. And then feel free to comment, what your thoughts are on this. If you think this was a decent article, if not, what you liked and didn't like, whatever. And yeah, we hope this was somewhat informational. I always think it's pretty neat seeing these articles because there's information mixed in with some opinions, but it's fun to navigate that.
Yeah.
The noise.
Gave you an idea of the foreshadows that are about to
some
come
future
over.
episodes coming up soon.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye, Mom.